This video is to show you how to make these cute little jellyfish. So these little jellyfish are a completely no-sew project, and you're going to crochet the tentacles and the oral arms as you go. So they work up very, very quickly. I've been using a combination of different yarns from Hobbii mostly. So the Baby Snuggle, Honey Bunny, and Toucan yarns all work quite well together and can be used in the same project. And they're very similar also to the Premier Parfait Chunky. So I've been using a combination of those yarns, and I've been doing a lot of scrap busting here. For today's video, I'm going to use the Toucan Sprinkle in Orange Zest for my main color. And then for my tentacles, I'm going to use this Toucan Sky Blue and Light Purple as well. So in addition to my yarns, I also have my crochet hook. It's an H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter. I have 10 millimeter safety eyes. And if you would prefer, you could also embroider the eyes on, and I can provide a video linked below for you for that. And then I have my stitch markers, my sewing needle, scissors, and of course a bit of stuffing. So if you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, there will be a free version available on my blog. And there's also a paid version available on my Ravelry and Etsy shops. So I'll provide all those links below for you. And that's about it. So let's get started. So to begin our jellyfish, I'm first using my Orange Zest yarn, so the main color, and I'm going to create a magic ring. Now, if you're not comfortable making magic rings with a chenille style yarn, that's okay. Go ahead and chain 2 and place all your stitches from round 1 into the second chain from the hook. Okay, and then you're going to place 6 single crochet stitches into the ring for round 1. I like to make them nice and loose so that I can close my ring easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. We'll see if this closes. There it goes. Okay. So on to round 2. Round 2 will be an increase round. So we're going to go from having 6 stitches up to 12 stitches. And to do that, we want to place 2 single crochet stitches or increase in each stitch around. So 6 times. So again, 2 single crochets in each stitch. And on to round 3. For round 3, we're going to do an increase round again, this time from 12 stitches up to 18. And to do that, we want to place 1 single crochet stitch in the next stitch and 2 in the stitch after that. And we'll repeat that 6 times around. So again, single crochet in the next stitch, and then place 2 single crochets, which is the same as an increase, in the stitch after that. So repeat 6 times. Okay, and then for rounds 4 to 7, we're just going to single crochet in each stitch around. So at the end of each round, you'll still have 18 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and do those 4 rounds off camera, and then I'll meet you back here for round 8. So go ahead and single crochet in each stitch around for 4 rounds. Okay, so I'm back here again for round 8. Now round 8 is almost the same as the last 4 rounds, except we're going to work each stitch in the back loop only. So each stitch has sort of a V shape on the top. So there's a front loop and a back loop, we call them. And for this round, we want to work in the back loop only, because that'll keep this front loop open, and then we will put the frill in that space when we've completed all of our tentacles. So in the back loop only, we're going to single crochet in the next 18 stitches. So again, we'll still have 18 stitches. We're just single crocheting in each stitch around, but see how I'm going in just the back loop. So if I bring that closer, you can see there's a little ridge here. That's what you're going to work the frill into later on. So you can mark that out if you want with stitch markers if you're finding it hard to see, or you can just wing it a little bit later. Okay, so single crochet in the back loop of each stitch. And again, you'll still have 18 stitches when you're done. So we're going to use the front loop and back loop method quite a bit in this pattern in order to create our tentacles in the next round. Okay, so can you see that ridge there? Again, if you want to mark it or mark where it starts and ends, there's the one here, and then there's one up here because the round crosses over then. Okay, so you're going to work in that once you get to the ridge part. Round 9, we are going to be adding in our tentacles. So if you wanted, you could, instead of creating the tentacles in round 9 as we go, you could create them separately and then pull them in and tie them after if you find that less confusing. So if you were to do that, you would want to make 3 tentacles where you chain 13 and then you slip stitch in each chain going back. So starting in the second chain from the hook and all the way back. And you would want to make 3 where you chain 18 and then slip stitch in the second chain from your hook and then slip stitch the rest of the way back down the chain. So that is possible, but I'm going to show you how to actually crochet them in as you go here using the front loop and the back loops. So we're going to begin right away with a tentacle. So I'm going to go back through this stitch and pull out my yarn, and I want to grab one of my accent colors. So I'm going to start with the blue color for my shorter tentacles, and then my longer ones will be in purple. And I want to pull this into the last pull through of this last stitch I made, so like we normally do with a color change. And I'm going to work in the front loop of this next stitch. And so everything that is within the brackets that you see in the pattern, it's going to be worked into the same front loop. So we're going to do a slip stitch, we're going to chain out, slip stitch back, and then slip stitch in the same front loop. So slip stitch, and then these are the smaller or shorter tentacles. So I'm going to chain 13. And then starting in the second chain from the hook and working all the way back, I'm going to single or slip stitch in each chain. So I like to work in the back bump of my chain when I know I'm only working the one side of it, and that allows me to have that V shape on both sides of my chain. But you can work in whatever part of the chain you prefer. Okay, so once you've slip stitched all the way back in the chain, you want to slip stitch in the front loop again, and you want to pull through with the main color when you're finishing that slip stitch. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to do a single crochet decrease with the main color, and then we're going to grab our next color of yarn, the purple, and pull that in. So if you prefer, you could leave the blue attached until you finish your yarn, or you could just do everything in one color. Pull that through. Okay. So we have our first tentacle, and then we're doing a single crochet decrease, and then we're going to do our next tentacle here in the front loop. So we're going to slip stitch, and then we're going to chain 18. And then beginning in the second chain from the hook, you want to do a slip stitch and then slip stitch in the next 16 stitches as well, or chains, I guess they are. Okay, then end with a slip stitch in that front loop. And again, you want to pull in your main color as you finish that slip stitch. Then do a single crochet decrease with the main color, and then grab your blue yarn, whatever color you made the first tentacle in, and you can tie up the beginning and end that tentacle. So the last pull through. Okay, and then in the front loop, we want to slip stitch. And then we're going to chain 13 because we're going to make a shorter tentacle again. And so we're repeating this pattern all the way around. We're going to do the smaller tentacle, a decrease with our main color, a longer tentacle with our other color, and the main color, a decrease. And we're repeating that all the way around, so 3 times, so that we end up with 3 smaller tentacles and 3 larger ones. So I'm going to speed up the video a little bit here to finish up my round. So we're chaining 13. Okay, So here is the end of round 9. So I'm just gonna finish up cutting the rest of my accent color ends and tying them together. So I kept my main color attached all the way through, but I would disconnect and then reattach the accent colors all the way around. Okay, so those ends, once they're all tied off, can go inside. Before we do the next round, we're gonna place our eyes. So the eyes can go really, it doesn't matter where around the jellyfish they go. I usually place this side towards the back, like wherever my yarn is ended, towards the back, and then place them here. But you can put them wherever you'd like. And I want to put them on round 5 of the head, about 4 stitches apart. So I'm counting from the top center, which is round 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I want about 4 stitches apart. I'm gonna here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, about here. So that puts 2 tentacles sort of at the front. If you'd rather move it so that it's more sitting like that, you can do that too. I think I'm just gonna leave it like this. And attach your eyes in whatever way you'd like. If you're embroidering the eyes on, I still recommend marking out where the safety eyes have been placed, just to give you an idea of where to place, where to place your eyes later on. But that's completely up to you as well. Okay, so we're gonna put our eyes in, and then you're gonna add a little bit of stuffing maybe now. You could wait a little bit longer if you want to, like midway through the next round, but we're gonna decrease quite a bit in this next round. So I would recommend adding a little bit now. This really doesn't need a lot of stuffing anyways, especially because all of the ends from the tentacles go in and add to the stuffing. But add a little bit in there. Okay. And then we're on to round 10. So for round 10, what we're gonna do is normally when we make tentacles and stuff, we would work in the back loop in order to sort of close up around it. But what I've done in this design is I'm just skipping over the back loop altogether, and we are just going to crochet in each of the 6 decrease stitches from last round. So yeah, we're going from 12 stitches down to 6, and we're going to skip over the back loop of this tentacle, and then we're just going to crochet here in this next step. So what you want to make sure you're doing is keeping your stitches nice and tight so we don't end up with holes from doing this. And again, you're going to skip the tentacle and then single crochet in the next stitch, keeping everything nice and tight. And repeat that 6 times in total. So we've already done it twice. We need 4 more. Skip your tentacle and then single crochet in your next stitch. Skip a tentacle, single crochet here, skip 1, single crochet, and then 1 more to finish this off. Okay, so then that brings us down to 6 stitches. So what we want to do now is create the little oral arms. So that's the part in the center here, the curly bit in the center. We're going to create those off the front loops of this last round we just made. But we're going to do it all in the main color, so it'll be a little bit less confusing than adding these guys on. So what we want to do is, again, the whole round is going to be worked in the front loop. We are going to create the arms similarly to the tentacles, but we're not going to have that decrease in the middle. So in the front loop of this next stitch, because we made these so tight, it might be a little bit tricky to get the front loop. You could use the whole stitch if you wanted. That won't harm anything. So slip stitch, and then you want to chain 35. Okay, so you've got a nice long chain. It's okay that it's so much longer than this, because what we're gonna do here is we're gonna start in the 3rd chain from the hook and do a slip stitch. And then for the rest of the way back, we're gonna skip 1 chain and then slip stitch in the next chain. So that's how we're gonna add our curl. So skip a chain, single crochet, or slip stitch in the next one, and we'll repeat that all the way back to the base here. Yeah, so it makes a fun little curl there. As we go. You could play around if you wanted to have these at different lengths. Okay, if you get to the bottom and you've missed a stitch or whatever, that's okay. Just go ahead and slip stitch in the next stitch. It can be tricky to make it back along the chain without missing any extra chains. Okay, and then when you get back, you want to do a slip stitch into that original front loop. Okay, and then you're going to slip stitch in the next stitch. And again, that's the front loop. If you can't find the front loop, it's okay. I only say the front loops because then it can be easier to cinch up the remaining stitches to finish this off. But if that's not working, that's okay. Okay, so we slip stitched in the next one, and then we're going to make our second arm by slip stitching in the front loop and chain 35. And then beginning in the 3rd chain from the hook, you want to slip stitch and then skip a chain and then slip stitch in the next one. And we'll repeat that all the way down the chain. And then we're slip stitching into our next stitch. Then we need to make one more arm. So slip stitch into the front loop. And then chain 35. Okay, and then in the third chain from the hook, you're gonna slip stitch, and then skip the next chain and slip stitch in the one after that, and repeat that the rest of the way back down the arm. And then slip stitch into the front loop. And we're going to end the round by slip stitching into the front loop of our next stitch. All right, so you should have 3 of the curly oral arms, and you've got your tentacles. Okay, so we're going to end off by slip stitching. I guess we can just pull it through. You can slip stitch to the back loop if you want, or just pull it through. And leave about 6 to 8 inches here. We're just going to cinch up our yarn. So if you want to add a bit more stuffing right now, you can. And if not, then just leave it. I'm going to add a little bit more because the stuffing will settle. Okay, so let's go ahead and cinch up that hole. And then we're going to add our ridge next. So if you go up, I usually go up the inside of these stitches as best I can. Okay, so last but not least, we're going to create that little ridge that's made from those open front stitches here. So you can kind of see them in there. There's a bit of a ridge here. That's what we're going to work on. So I can see that my ridge is here and then jumps up to here, because that is the in-between part. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here with attaching my yarn. So you can attach it anywhere you want on those loops from round 7. And I'm going to start on this last stitch before it jumps up. But wherever you like is okay. Okay, and then I'm going to do my first stitch down here. I'm going to single crochet in the first stitch. And then I want to place 3 double crochet stitches in my next one. So that's up here. And you're going to repeat this pattern all the way around, so 9 times total. You'll single crochet in your first stitch, and then you'll do 3 double crochet in the stitch after that. Single crochet, and then double. Okay, and then end off by slip stitching to your first single crochet stitch. You don't need much of a tail because you're just going to tie off the beginning and end and then push them into the body. All right, so there we go. Shake off some of that fluff. So there is our cute little jellyfish. So if you want to add the extra embroidery details there, I will provide a link in the description there to a video that shows how to do all of that. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you like this video, please go ahead and like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you later. Bye for now.